So on what cruise ship can you watch the best stage show at sea, hosted by the best cruise director at sea, while drinking the best craft beer at sea? About a year ago, we had the pleasure of sailing on the Carnival Horizon for an 8-day sailing out of New York Harbor, sailing to Grand Turk, Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic. I can remember it like it was yesterday. So I thought I would give you my official review of the Carnival Horizon. But first, a disclaimer. The following review is just my opinion and is strictly based on my personal tastes and onboard experiences, so is therefore completely meaningless. Any negative comments are directed entirely towards the management of the cruise line and not towards any of the crew, who are the greatest, hardest working people in the service industry. So I'm going to divide this review into 4 parts. We're going to talk about the ship, I'm going to talk about the food and drink, and we're going to talk about the entertainment, and then talk about the itinerary. So first off, the ship. Alright, now first impressions of the ship were a little bit strange because when we get on the ship, instead of taking us to the atrium, for some strange reason they were shooting us down the hallway on deck 2 or deck 3, wherever we got on. We actually went past all of the Haven suites or whatever those things are called.
Welcome. Hi guys, welcome. Elevator for the lunch, waiting for you.
And so the first public area that we got to was actually the elevator bank. And this was one of the funniest experiences I've ever seen. I don't know if you've ever heard or not, but Carnival now has smart elevators on their ship. And so instead of like getting on an elevator and then pushing the button to whatever floor you go on, they have this touch screen outside the elevators and you tell it which floor you want to go to, and then it shows you which elevator in the elevator bank to get on. So you hit, I want to go to deck 12, and then it'll say, okay, deck 12 is going to be on elevator number 4. So you wait on elevator number 4, you get on there, and you eventually get up there. Now the confusing thing is there are no buttons inside the elevator. So when you get on the elevator, you have to go to the one of the floors it drops off on. Extremely efficient, brilliant design, absolutely loved it. However, smart elevators bring out the stupid in people on embarkation day, including myself. Our first experience on the elevator was fantastic. We get on the elevator, everybody's panicking because they have no idea where they're going to go. We stop at like deck 5, and some guy in front of me is in sheer panic, and he's like, Is this the floor I'm supposed to get off on? I don't know. What floor do you want to get off on? I think he gets off at like deck 7 or deck 8. I have no idea where he was going. And then when we get up to the Lido deck, some woman starts panicking and she's like, is this the food deck? Is this the food deck? It's a cruise ship. Pretty much every floor is a food deck. And even though it was a little bit strange on embarkation day if you're not used to it, I'll say that throughout the week, the smart elevators were great. Second thing we noticed is the design of the ship. This ship is extremely modern. And just very clean lines, very nice, like dark woods, dark grays, light grays, very neutral color palette. Absolutely beautiful design. Definitely my taste. So points for that already. Go up to the Lido deck. The design of the Lido deck is a little bit strange for me because it did not seem very big, even though I don't know if it was big or not. It was kind of compartmentalized, so it didn't have that big open cafeteria feel like we've seen on other ships. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it felt a little bit claustrophobic when we first got on there. But that was just the first impression I got. It was fine. It was just a little put off at first because I didn't know if I was in the right place or if there was more of it there, or I just felt like I was in a small dining room. Then after that, then we went to check into the room, and I'm not even going to go over this. Room's standard room. It was great. It was nice. It was brand new. It's modern looking. Same size, same bathroom. Had a balcony, so that's awesome, but it's a room. A room's a room. It doesn't really matter. Besides, I'm hardly ever in there, so I really don't care. Just give me a nice, comfortable bed and make sure it's quiet, and I'm gold. And it was quiet, and I was gold. But I will say, definitely needed a balcony whenever you leave New York City. Great place for a time lapse. So then we started touring the ship, went up to the sports deck on top. Kind of the typical thing. You got the waterworks, the water slide. You've got the sports court, with the basketball and soccer and whatever else they play up there. And then they have the ropes course, not roast corpse, that's gross. But then they also had the introduction of the sky ride. Can't remember if this is the ship or if it was another ship. I think it was another ship. Kind of that inverted bicycle thing that goes around the track on the top deck of the ship. You have awesome vistas for everywhere you're looking. It seems like they're having troubles with it today though on the Vista and the Horizon, so I wonder if they're going to do something different to it by the time Panorama comes out. Who knows? This ship also has 2 theaters. Now, one that really blew me away, even though we didn't go see a movie there, was it has a legit Imax theater. It seats like, I don't know, a few hundred people. This thing was huge. I have no idea where they fit it. But we did go to the other theater. It's called the Thrill Theater, and it's kind of the opposite of the IMAX because it seats about, I don't know, 14 people. Very comfortable, very cozy, but very strange because it's one of these 4D theaters. So whenever something happens on screen, you might get a little puff of wind in your face or a little splash of water on your cheek. Or my personal favorite is when somebody got stabbed in the back. Something in the back of the seat poked my back, so I got to see what it really felt like to, get stabbed in the back. But it was a pretty cool experience, I'll have to say. I didn't really appreciate the string, though, flapping back and forth against my ankles when the bugs were running around all over the cemetery or whatever. It kind of grossed me out. But my favorite part of the ship is the atrium, which is funny because I've never really been a fan of going to the atrium because it just seems like a big open place that not a whole lot of action goes on. Not so much on this ship. First of all, this atrium has what they call the Dreamscape. Oh crap, I don't remember what it's called. The Dreamscape. Should have probably been prepared for this. The Dreamscape. It's like this cone that comes up from the middle of the Atrium Bar, which is a perfectly circular bar. And then this cone comes out of it, almost like a gigantic martini glass. It comes out the top, and the entire thing is an LED screen. They have all these different funky designs and whatever that moves around it. And if there's not live music in there, they've got some like new age music playing, and it's just really mesmerizing. But I definitely give this ship a solid 5. The only ding that I had against it is the biggest ship in the fleet. However, I think when they made it, it's like they just added a deck and then a whole bunch of more cabins because all the public spaces seem to be about the same size. So the flow was a little bit strange and it was a little bit hard to get used to for a couple of days. It was fine midweek, but the first couple of days I was lost all the time, especially the Limelight Lounge. That was like the second little theater area where they had the comedy club and it turned into the nightclub at night, and I think they had karaoke and other bands and stuff in there. I could never find that. Next, the food and beverage. First off, Lido Deck Buffet. Nothing great, but definitely nothing bad. It was one of the better Lido Deck buffets I've been on. Main dining room. First off, design of the main dining room is absolutely gorgeous. Again, with the modern feel to it. It's got all the wood tones, all the neutral colors to it. Absolutely beautiful, clean looking space. As far as the food goes, it was good. It was fine. Wasn't great. I think I've had better. I've definitely had worse. But no, it was solid main dining room food. Just nothing extremely memorable. However, there were two things that were very memorable about the main dining room. Number one, the service. We had 3 waiters at our table, and we just had a table with the 4 of us. So obviously the service was impeccable, and the guys were very, very, very nice, very, very helpful. Got to know who we were within a couple of days. We're going ahead and bringing drinks out for us without even asking, already giving us preferences of food. Wonderful, wonderful service. But my favorite part of the main dining room was Menage.
Don't put it like this, go for it. Wow, you do magic? No, I can see that too. Yeah, take your time. No, it's right. If you want, you can take it one more time. Do you want to take one more time right there? Okay. Oh my God, you're so funny. I give you candy tomorrow.
Menage is a close-up sleight of hand magician who I assume traveled kind of throughout the ship from different dining venues, because we did see him in a couple of other dining halls. Absolutely hysterical. And some of the best close-up magic I've ever seen. You gotta check him out. That is if he's still on the ship. That was a year ago. All right, more food. Guy's Burger Joint. Best burger at sea. They can't screw that up no matter what ship they're on. It's fantastic. I'm always going to give a ship high ratings if it has a Guy's Burger Joint on it, as well as the Blue Iguana Burrito Bar. Fantastic burrito, one of the best burritos I've ever had. Breakfast burritos, it's ridiculous. But those 2 venues alone will always have decent scores on a Carnival cruise ship for me. I could just have a Guy's Burger every single day and be satisfied. I don't think my gut would be satisfied though. 2 new things on this ship. Guy's Pig and Anchor Barbecue. Pig and Anchor? Yeah, the Pig and Anchor, the barbecue place. They have a little outdoor buffet on, I think, deck 5 on the outside. And they have the little buffet out there. They have like 4 or 5 different types of meats. And then they have your typical barbecue, wonderful barbecue food, the mac and cheese, the potato salad, and like 5 or 6 different sauces. Actually, just 4 sauces to go onto the barbecue. It's really, 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 really good. I'll be honest with you though, I was expecting it to be a little bit better since it has Guy Fieri's name on it, but it was good. However, the 2 things I loved about the Pig and Anchor, they had this giant glass tub of Tito's vodka that was completely filled to the top with raw vegetables, potatoes, onions, you name it. Filled all the way to the top. And it was just infusing just garden flavor into that vodka for however as long as they have it on there. And then that's what they siphon the vodka from to make the Bloody Marys from. If that's not enough, garnish it with an olive, garnish it with celery. How about a slice of bacon? I went without the bacon. Don't think I'm a fan of meat in my drink, but the Bloody Mary was tasty. The other great thing about the Pig and Anchor is it is adjacent to the brewery. Yes, there's a brewery on this cruise ship with an actual brewmeister. And I must say, the week we were on there, they were offering their 4 main beers, and then he had a, for lack of a better word, seasonal 5th beer. But I was shocked, especially with the IPA. That was a really good IPA. Ended up becoming one of my go-to drinks under the Dreamscape. So when you get on the Horizon, make sure you check out the brewery. Then there was the Alchemy Bar. I'm sure you've seen tons of videos of the Alchemy Bar. One of the greatest bars at sea. Some of the greatest drinks I've ever had at sea. You got to go there at least 2 or 3 nights if you're on a week-long cruise. That was Italian. Speaking of Italian, we did have dinner at one of their specialty restaurants, Cucina del Capitano, which was delicious. However, I don't know if it was justifiable with the upcharge. Probably was, but not a sure thing. It was good though. I'm glad we went. It was enjoyable. And Minaj showed up there as well. And last but not least for this section, the Atrium Bar itself. Again, I hardly ever spend time in the Atrium Bar. On this ship, I spent way too much time in the Atrium Bar. Part of the reason was because of the wonderful, mesmerizing Dreamscape. The other part is because of the 3 wonderful bartenders they had there. You had Jens, you had Anka, and you had Doris. All 3 of them were very accommodating. All 3 of them were always at our service whenever our drinks were low. And they had a ton of customers because, again, that's a pretty crowded area. And if this is any indication of how much time we spent there, we actually saw one of them setting up the bar on debarkation day as we were getting off of the ship. And I think my wife cried when we went and said goodbye to her. It was actually kind of an emotional moment. But as far as rating the food and beverage on the ship, I'm going to have to give it a 4. The reason being is the Lido deck was good, not great. The main dining room was good, not great. And that's where we spent most of our time eating. However, I am going to give it a high 4 because I think I had like 4 guys' burgers. Every single one of them was phenomenal. And again, the Blue Iguana burritos, everything about it, the Bloody Mary, just solid. Entertainment. First off, cruise director. Back in 2013, we were on the Carnival Conquest and we were introduced to the best cruise director at sea by the name of Mike Pack. Mike's now the cruise director of Carnival Horizon. And the thing that makes Mike great is he is not over the top and he is not crazy losing his mind. However, he is extremely energetic, extremely photogenic, extremely friendly. He wants to interact with the crowds. He was there at every single show. He was there every single time something was going on in the atrium. He was all over the ship. I don't know if the dude even sleeps. And if you're really nerdy and bored, my wife got to do an interview with him for her work. I'll put a card right here for that. Then underneath the cruise director, you had the Fun Squad. Fun Squad was a great bunch of people, like it always is on Carnival cruise ships. And they had some great shows. They actually did a Clue show, which ended up being a scavenger hunt throughout the whole ship, throughout the whole week, but based on the board game Clue. It's pretty fun. They also had the X versus Y game in the main theater. I may or may not have actually sung on the main stage for that, but we lost. Couldn't have been because of my singing. There was a Dr. Seuss Parade, which was pretty fun for the kids.
Dr. Seuss says I'm the looses.
We partook of all the trivia this time. Turns out we suck really bad at it. Comedians. There was 4 comedians total on this 8-night sailing. We had 2 when we boarded the ship. And then when we got to Puerto Rico, they left. 2 more came back on. And so then we had 2 more for the second part of the cruise. Love that idea. Where else are you going to go to see 4 different comedians throughout the week for entertainment? The problem is we were on an off week. 2 of the comedians were kind of good. The other 2 were not. But still, completely dig the idea of having 2 at the beginning of the cruise and 2 at the end of the cruise. Just a lot of opportunity for entertainment. Now this leaves me with the Playlist Productions. This is by far the best set of shows that we've ever seen on a cruise. Now I know it's a brand new ship, so they're gonna have brand new productions and they're gonna have the best of the best on there. But wow, they knocked this one out of the park. They had 4 shows throughout the week. They had one called Soulbound, which was obviously soul music. At least I think it was soul music. They had another one called Havana Nights. Which was all Latino music. And then they had one called Vintage Pop. Sorry, I can't remember. I'm assuming it was oldies. It was good. I just don't remember the music. Too much to remember. It was a year ago. However, they had what in my opinion is by far the best stage show at sea. It's called Celestial Strings. Need to give you a little bit of background though. Did I mention I spent a lot of time in the Atrium? Well, in the Atrium, there is a violin trio who performed there what seemed like pretty much around the clock. It's not my cup of tea. They were good, but I did find it a little bit odd. You got this nice new modern ship, you know, a young crowd, and then they've got this violin music. It seemed kind of, I don't know, it didn't seem very cruise-like. After a couple days, I realized they aren't playing violin music per se. They're actually playing contemporary music. Have you ever heard Soundgarden played on a violin? It's pretty cool. So they really grew on me, especially with the Dreamscape. But then the night of Celestial Strings, which was the 4th and final show, I think it was the second to last night on the ship. Hold on, I completely forgot. In the main stage, in the main theater, instead of having your typical seating, you know, with the rows of the seats and then the tables so they can bring your drinks out and everything, it's almost like a big banquet hall. They had all of these movable seats, and the reason why they do it is because each show has a little bit of a different theme to it, and they move the seats around so that the performers can come around and actually interact with the crowds way off of the stage. And they have different smaller stages set up throughout the floor of the theater. Just gives you a very, very, very immersive show. But in Celestial Strings, we had great seats. We were actually right in front of one of the areas where the performers sang. But the way this show started is the performers were kind of walking around before the show started, and there was some string music in the background, and they were just kind of doing some ambient stuff. A little strange, a little weird, but you know, entertaining the crowd, just trying to mingle as people were coming in and do some slight interaction with them. Then I realized that the violins were actually being played live from out in the atrium, and the sound was being pumped into the theater. Because then when the show started, the violins got a lot louder, all the performers came in, and then it was almost like a wedding procession. All the performers came in one at a time, and then they were followed in by the actual violinists who were performing out in the atrium, and then came in, and they became part of the performance. It's hard to even describe because it does not do it any justice to talk about it. You actually have to experience it. It was an absolutely wonderful show. And if that wasn't enough, they did that on the White Hot night. White Hot, is that what they call it, or is that NCL? Sorry, White Party. White Hot, somebody else. Yeah, I get confused. Everybody does their own white party, but they call it other things. But the White Party. So then after the show, everybody went out to the Atrium. Now keep in mind, the Atrium is 3 stories tall, so people were hanging around the banisters. But the performers came out and actually continued singing after the show for a couple of songs on the stairwells. It was really great. Then Mike came out and started the actual white party. Everybody had these glow sticks, all the lights turned blue, and everybody was supposed to be wearing white, so everything was glowing. It was just a really, really, really cool being there. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's like I'm trying to sell cars. Ooh. So everybody had their glow sticks. Mike came out. He's like dancing on the bar like he always does. And just really, really, really fun night. Everybody's singing. Everybody's dancing. Of course, they played Black Eyed Peas because that's what you do on a cruise ship. And after the white party, everybody went to the Limelight, which then became the nightclub. Of course, every day, but I ain't a dentist. Your whole style and approach, I ain't and I ain't taking that back because I meant it. And the party continued until the night. So we basically were entertained and had a great time from about 7:30 all the way up until midnight. This was by far the funnest night we have ever had on a cruise ship. Thank you, Carnival. So I don't have a choice. Strong, strong, strong 5 on the entertainment. It was pretty much perfect entertainment. Lastly, the itinerary. And this is one of my favorite itineraries I've ever been on. Number one, because we left New York City. Anytime that you can spend the day in New York City before a cruise, holy cow, that's an amazing experience. It's actually the first time we as a family have ever spent any time in New York City. So we actually flew up. We arrived at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. I think the cruise actually left on Monday, which was kind of strange. Got there at 10 a.m. on Sunday, spent the entire day going around New York City. Obviously did the Empire State Building, did Modern Museum of Art, did the typical New York touristy thing. Had a hot dog in the middle of the street, went to Times Square, you name it. When you look at tourist in the dictionary, you saw outline of the 4 of us. But since it was a sailing from New York to the Caribbean, kind of no choice, it was an 8-day cruise. 8-day is such a sweet spot because sometimes you think 7 days is maybe a day too short. 8 is the perfect amount of time. But also, since they were booking it down to the Caribbean, and this is one of my favorite parts about the itinerary, no Nassau, no Freeport, no Bahamas. 4 full sea days. We only had 3 ports on an 8-night cruise, and they're solid ports. Grand Turk. Love Grand Turk. I've been there a few times, but I still love it. Got to go to Jack Shack and get some cracked conch. Say that 5 times fast. Puerto Rico. Never get sick of Puerto Rico. Just great excuse to get out and walk around, meet some pigeons, meet some feral cats. But most importantly, have one of my favorite meals in the world, mofongo, or as I was introduced this time, trifongo. And then we ended up at Amber Cove in the Dominican Republic. And that was our first time there, so that was definitely a bonus. And we did the waterfalls, the Demanja crap, Damajagua? I'll never be able to pronounce it. Have fun Googling that one. But the waterfalls were fantastic. There was like 7 main falls. We had a life jacket on, had a helmet. We go to the top. It was a nice hour and a half walk through 90-degree humid weather, so that was fantastic. And then we get into the river, which was ice cold, but so refreshing. And then we either jumped or slid down slides throughout the waterfalls and throughout the stream. The only catch is, I don't know what else there is to do in Dominican Republic, because that was really the only thing that we saw on the list that was worth doing. And it was definitely worth doing, but I wonder what else there is to do there. Somebody told me something about monkeys. Guess I'll just have to go back and see. So those were the only 3 ports we were at. 4 days at sea. It's amazing how much ship exploring you can do. And did I say no Nassau? So normally, I think I would give an itinerary like this maybe a 4, just because I've been to Grand Turk and I've been to Puerto Rico, and Amber Cove didn't seem like there was a whole lot there. But I gotta say, since we started off in New York, and since we did not have to go to the Bahamas, that's always going to be a 5 in my book. So what can I say? This is about as close to a perfect cruise as we've ever been on. So leave me a comment if you've been on the Horizon or if you're going on the Horizon. Love to hear your opinion of the ship. See if I'm too much of a fanboy, to see if you completely disagree with me. I don't see how we could be friends if you did. Next on the dock, I will be giving my official review of the Celebrity Edge. Oh my gosh, what a great ship that was. So if that sounds interesting to you, you might want to hit the subscribe button for when that comes out next week or so. And you can give me a thumbs up if you want to. You don't have to. Yeah, give me a thumbs up. Please give me a thumbs up. So until next time, I don't really know how to end these. I feel stupid because I'm literally talking to a camera. Peace, later, cheers, and happy International Cat Day.